Hello, and welcome to the Race, Wealth, and Health Podcast, a podcast that serves to educate and empower while we explore the intersections of social justice, economic empowerment, and holistic well-being within communities of color. I am your host, Dr. Joycelyn Morris, and I invite you to join me as we dive deep into the crucial topics that shape our lives, challenge the status quo, and strive for a more equitable future for all. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Race, Wealth, and Health Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Joycelyn Morris, and I'm really excited to be joined here by both my friend and colleague, Omar Chin. Omar, welcome.
Thank you for having me. How are you doing today?
I'm good, I was like, what day is it? It's Tuesday.
Yes.
I'm doing pretty well. But really brief introduction of Omar. Omar has 15 years of experience in product management and 13 years of experience in the stock market. And he's going to talk to us a little bit more about the latter as well in terms of the type of work that he's been doing. One of the things I always do is cover how we met. And so I had to clear this up before the show and make sure I was on the same page about when we met. Of course, we met at the campus of Florida A&M University in the School of Business and Industry. And I was like, so freshmen, at least at that time, had this class called like survey. And it's almost like, I don't know how you would describe it. It almost felt like your homeroom, like it was the first group of people that you met. I feel like it was a hodgepodge of type of work that we did in that class, but it really felt like it really almost felt like a freshman orientation type class, but for SBI specifically. And so Omar and I were in survey. So like literally probably one of the first people that I met, or amongst the first people that I met at Florida A&M. And we've all stayed in touch. And I think quite a bit of our survey class actually stays pretty well in touch and connected.
In some way.
I know, some way, shape, or form. So yeah, so that's why I'm really excited to have you chat. So let's start out, Omar. Like obviously I gave a very, very high level overview of who you are, but if you wouldn't mind sharing with our listeners, sort of your professional background and how you got into the space of the work that you do now with Grow Your Wallet.
Yeah. So the way that I got into it, I was trying to figure out ways to earn extra money. My first stock was actually with Facebook when it IPO'd, and I was extremely passive in the stock market. I just bought stock and was just like, all right, well, I'll just see what happens. Bought a share or two here or there. And then time just went on and I saw things growing. So I was like, well, it's kind of cool. I put money down, it grows, and my job here is done. Yeah. So I did some more of that because, it's a much better way to make money than just having your money in the bank, because that return is basically like almost zero. I just did that first. And then I wanted to just like get much better in it. I did a few things, like a few small business things prior, but then I was like, well, I can be stopped here. There were a few barriers to entry. And so then I thought about something that actually happened in college. There was a stock market game or challenge that I actually was not able to do, but I always knew that I was very good with like numbers and patterns. So I kind of figured that I may be able to figure it out. And so I took my hand there. I actually saw somebody who was doing this for, at the time, about 10 years independently. And he was a full-time investor and trader. So I connected with him and just asked him like, hey, I want to do this. I'm okay with stocks, but I want to do more. And so he gave me a few things to want to think about. I took a course from him, wasn't very expensive, thankfully, and I got the ball rolling. And from there, I just learned as much as I could, met a few people along the way that knew more. They poured into me, and now I'm here.
Awesome. And so one thing we kind of skipped is sort of like, when in your overall career trajectory did this kind of come about? And are there any kind of connections between your product management experience and the work that you've been doing in the stock market?
For the product management work, no, but that also helped me build out my website because I understood what it would look like for someone to buy into and use a product. For the stock market itself, that was just a skill set. I would say I was able to tap into and not be afraid of charts and patterns, because I think in that term, anyway. And I realized that we all actually think in terms of the stock market, but more so in a pattern type recognition way. Even like with driving or buying clothes, you don't just say like, "Oh, I like a shirt," and then you buy it. Like there are steps involved with it. Does it fit? Does it match your style? Is it
Mm-hmm.
the right price? Do you have anything else to go along with it? Like there are layers to a actual end action. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the exact same thing with the stock market. The difference is most folks of color, we don't have a point person that we can turn to and say, hey, I see you doing this. This is real. Can you teach me? That's our
Mm-hmm.
major difference.
Yeah. No, fair enough. And so again, so you take this course that was not cost prohibitive, which we love,
Yes.
and you learned about it and you started doing your own thing, started investing. Where'd you start with the investing? Like, tell us a little bit more about that. And I know you mentioned
Yeah.
some Facebook IPO, but
Yeah, so I did Facebook. I remember something I actually learned it at FAMU. There was a guy that came in and he was talking about investing also. And he said that you don't invest in the end product, you invest in the thing that makes the end product go.
mm,
And he said that's the thing that has to happen. I think he gave an example of like a jeans. He said jeans are jeans, but almost all jeans need a zipper. So you invest in zippers.
mm,
And I was like, okay. So once once I recall that, I always thought about that whenever it came to investing. Something that I got in pretty early on was Nvidia. And the reason for that was because folks started talking about a self-driving car. So I was like, all right, well, I'm not gonna buy all the car companies. What makes a self-driving car go? So
mm,
I did some research and it all boiled down to one thing, a gaming chip, because it needed a camera or a device to be able to scan the road, take the images, and do all that fun stuff. But I couldn't find which company was the leader. So it was two. It was either NVIDIA or AMD. So I was like, well, I have enough money. I'll just buy them both. Like I'll see what happens and see what shakes out. NVIDIA won. And I've had NVIDIA for quite some time now and it did very well. So I had Nvidia, I had Tesla. So I had a few things from I want to say around 2016, 2017,
mm-hmm.
and they've done very well.
Yeah. No, thank you. And one, thank you for sharing the
You're welcome.
specifics of what you've invested in. And also, I think one of the things I wanted to kind of cover is that I think it's oftentimes there can be kind of high barriers to entry for folks to invest if
Yeah.
they don't know. And so even from a platform perspective, like how did you get an actual, did you go through a traditional bank and sort of have a financial advisor? Did you use a platform? Right. So like what
Yeah.
were the tools that you used to get started?
Yeah. So I was on TD Ameritrade. It's now Schwab, but they have a platform called Thinkorswim. By far, it's the best one that I've seen because it just has everything. Like it can has a bunch of charts, which I know is scary, but is what it is. They have charts, you can do options, futures, stocks, just so much information. And I don't even know, I would say 40% of it because it's just so vast. Like the market is just intense, but I just fine tune what it is that I need to know. And so that platform, it's free once you have a account with them. So from there, I just learned how to use the platform. I learned what certain things meant. I was more so like buying and selling stuff because I had no idea how or why. I would just like buy something at the end of the day. I'll sell it in the morning. I'm like, all right, made some money, lost some money. I'll just do it again. So I went from just doing that to actually like understanding why stocks are moving. Is there a bottom? Is there a top? What's the pattern? And just like really putting some actual thought behind it. So I would say start with on Thinkorswim first, and then you can go on to more of a boutique place like TradingView, which is amazing for charts as well, or NinjaTrader, which is great for futures, which I use all three.
So for Thinkorswim, are there any minimums in terms of like
Just have
what
an
you can
account.
invest?
Yeah,
You just have to- okay.
just have an account. Now, depending on what tool you're using. Like if you're doing futures, that has a minimum, but it is subjective to like what you're doing. Options, it just has a cost. So again, it's just subjective to like what you're doing, and then how often you do it depends on what kind of account type you have. So there's a lot of rules as you start going into it. But for the most part, once you are on Schwab, there's no account limit that I know of to actually have an account and then
Okay.
to start investing. You
That's
find a
awesome.
stock,
Okay.
buy it, and then you just go from there.
Okay. Awesome. And so I wanted to or take a not a step back, but kind of go
Yeah.
back to the point where you said that, you got into investing, you took this class, you learned about it, you decided to invest yourself. How did it go from like walk us through like what your thought process was, right? Going
Hmm.
from, hey, I just want to make some extra money myself, which of course, like who
Right.
doesn't? Big proponent of multiple streams of income over here, to I might start like a whole side business as well, in addition to investing
Yeah.
to help educate others to invest. Like,
Yeah.
what was that
Sure.
process?
So it was first, it was I'll just buy stock and then I'll look back in like 10 or so years and see, am I a millionaire? Well, as long as nothing bad like ever happens in life. But then there's life. So then it's like, all right, well, that's not going to work. Let me try to be more active. I may need to trade
Right.
because if I'm just investing, that's great. But that means that it's money that I'm not touching for years. But if I want to live off of it within a shorter period of time, I need to be able to pull the money out. Well, that's not investing, that's trading. It could be short term or medium term, but either way, that's trading in and out of the market. And so I had to figure out like what that looked like. I did it with
Mhm.
stocks first, which is cool. But then I was like, with stocks, you still need to have a certain amount of money to really make it worthwhile, or just be very, very consistent and then grow your wallet to be able to make it worthwhile.
Right.
So it went from stocks over to futures. And the main reason for that was because I asked the mentor, I said, hey, if I'm working from 9 to 5, can I trade? And he said, well, you can't trade options, but you can trade futures because they work after hours too. So I was like, all right, I'm
Mm.
sold. So I did futures first. And then I did that until I got pretty good at it. And I would say that my best month was when I made a second account and I only put in $800 in the account. And the profit after that, at the end of that month, was 8,000. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm sold here. So I just kept doing that until I got into other spaces and realized that this pay gap that we as folks of color think is there from a job perspective, it's
Mhm.
not, it's really that we don't have money to invest or that we know of ways to make money. Because the people in those spaces were trading big numbers. And I mean like 10, 15K a trade. So I'm like, yeah, I can't put down 10K on a trade and just not worry about life overall. So I needed to like really grow and like try to find ways to get to where they're at. And they also had just like over 2 or 3 decades in the game, which at the time I wasn't even 40 yet. So like, yeah, they have more time in this space than
Mhm.
I actually have years on this earth. So that's the real gap here.
Mentioned moving from stocks to futures now, and you mentioned the difference between trading versus investing. So were
Yeah,
you investing in stocks or were you attempting to trade stocks at
both.
both? Okay.
Yeah. So I split up my accounts because I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket
Mhm.
because I look at the stock market as my multiple streams of income. I have investment accounts, 401ks or IRAs. I trade for in futures and in options. So I look at different ways to make money in the market so that I could try to make the most out of it and not spend my entire day staring at a computer because I don't want to do that either.
Right. Yeah. So, like you mentioned, there's not just sort of the income gap, there's also a bit of a knowledge
Yes,
gap. And
massive.
so now create like connect the dots of when you decided, okay, to go beyond just investing for yourself.
2020, I think, or 2021, 22, somewhere around there.
Pandemic,
Yeah,
when
so
everybody was questioning their ultimate existence and
right. So
going
I want to say like that that's when I made it official and structured. because I was doing it first just for some friends saying like, hey, here's some ideas and this and that. Some folks got it, some folks were like, that's a bit much, it's kind of technical. And so I said, well, you know what? I can see that. It might be a bit much because I'm coming at them from what I already know. And they're coming at it from, I have no idea. So I said, let me try to break it back and create something like how I learned it. I can't come at somebody who knows nothing and just speak about investing or about day trading. I got to speak about investing because that's much easier. So I structured my course in a step-by-step manner, like how I learned it. You learn about investing first. You have to learn how to read a chart because if you can't read a chart, you can't do anything. At that point, is just on throwing a dart on the board and hoping that it hits. And then you go from investing, learning how to read charts to do you want to try and day trade? Do you understand this platform? If you do want to day trade, are you day trading stocks? Are you day trading futures? Are you day trading options? How does it look? What's the conversation like? So I created multiple modules that somebody can buy into if they want to learn a certain skill set. If they don't want to learn it, that's okay. They don't have to because not everything is for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's all broken down. And then I also thought about the fact that many people have issues where they may buy something from someone, but then they can't reach them. So I created a community page as well that says like, hey, if you buy something from me, you get 3 months access for free in the community page to ask me questions. After that, it's on $40 a month. And then as of late, let's thank Beyonce for this. I got an inspiration to try to figure out something that's been on my mind for a while, which was a signal service. So I created a options signal service that where I will give people a option play whenever I see a setup, and I'm only waiting for the best possible setup that I see. Then I'll most likely give you a heads up that a play is coming, and then I'll tell you what the play is and what your minimum expected return could be. So I did one this morning where I saw a play coming. I called it, and it went for a profit of like 60% profit on the day. I got it 40%, and then I was done, but its max was 60%. So, I mean, when you hear that a great year in the market is up 8%, I'll just give you a play that went for 60 on a day.
Yeah. Now let's back it up for 1 second because I don't want to lose the listeners. Tell us what is an option first, and then what is an option play because we want to be able to follow you and all.
So an option, how I break this down. Options is a type of investment that says based off of the time that I have on this contract, I expect the market to go from one point to a next. That is the easiest way to break that down because options can be very, very technical, which is why I learned that last.
So you're making a bet on the direction in which the market will
by a certain time. And that time portion is crucial because you can be correct in your direction, but your target can be too far out with not enough time to get there. And you can still lose money. So that's where I would say the options are the hardest one, is the hardest piece to learn.
Mm-hmm.
But the money that's there, like if you know how to do it, is truly there.
Mm-hmm.
I like futures because you just got to pick a direction and just say, all right, well, just go in that direction. As long as it goes in that direction, you're good. Futures is basically like stocks, but there's a bit more sauce to it.
Okay. And are futures aligned to stocks or they're aligned to?
They can be. So the futures that I play, because there's just a lot out there, I play the MES and ES futures, which is basically a offshoot of the S&P 500.
Okay.
So as the S&P moves, the future moves. So instead of me having to look and learn all of these different stocks, I look at one thing and I just try to master it.
Okay, I think we're following. And so going back to the tool that you created or that you, thanks to your inspiration from the Atlanta Beyonce concert you and the Mrs. went to, you were saying it would allow you to put out sort of an option plan. You said you tested it out today. But again, like So what's an option play? Like, what are you
Yeah.
sharing?
So if I see a play, because I realize that many people would say like, "Hey, I don't want to try to sit here and like learn this stuff," which is fair. I'll say that if you know like how options work, it's easiest because I'm not gonna try and teach you like, okay, well, this is how you set it everything up and so forth. If you know like how these things work, here's a play for this call. So if I say that the market might go up, I'll give you a strike price, which is also a target that you can hit, and say that you should get X amount of percent of a profit as a minimum on this play, and then go for it. If it works, it works. It's not financial advice. It's all up to you. Just got to put that out there as a FYI. And so, but yeah, like if you take it, you take it. And this way you can also make money on the side without having to try and learn everything about the stock market.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that sounds really cool. And so, what has been what kind of drives you in terms of continue to be passionate about, not just the work, but specifically the education around investing and beyond investing in just funds and individual stocks, but really delving more into, like you mentioned, options and futures, which can be the stock market in general can be kind of scary and at least scary in the sense of being unknown for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
So definitely you start talking about options and futures, like,
Yeah. So
yeah.
my passion is freedom. That's a
Mhm.
passion. Like many of my peers, I've been through a job loss or two. We had COVID. We had many, many things. And my thing is, if your job goes away next week, how do you make $1? If the answer is, I don't know, you might want to try and figure it out, because the reality is folks lose jobs. We see now that with the advent of AI, we have whole divisions that are just being wiped out. What do you do if you can't find a job in your space? How long does it take for you to learn a new craft? So I'd rather be ahead of the game than behind it. And also, this is something that I could teach my kids as well, so that they can start off earlier and make money for themselves.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And tell me, why do you think it's important for folks to learn about investing?
Because it's not taught in school. I learned that our degrees are actually backed by corporations. That's why we are taught about corporate finance and marketing on a corporate level, but
Mhm,
not individuals, because they don't want us to learn how to make ourselves money. It's to make a entity rich and wealthy.
mhm,
So I was like, so it's all a big game. Got
mhm.
it. Good to know.
Say more about the college degrees being backed by corporations.
Yeah. So I was talking to somebody at a college, and I won't say the name, but I was asking, why isn't this taught? I spoke to somebody who has experience in the space. So I
Mhm,
asked, what would it take to actually push this to get it on the curriculum?
mhm,
And then that person broke it down to me and said, well, actually, the reason why we don't have it is because we can't have it. Different corporations, they own or back the degrees that we have. So they actually set the tone, or they say like what's okay for us to teach or for them to teach.
mhm.
So everything that we learn is taught or centered around helping out a corporation. For you to truly get an entrepreneurship class, you have to really dig deep and try to find it out as an elective or something else. But odds are it's not going to be attached to a degree.
No, fair point. And I feel like you touched on it a little bit, but more explicitly, tell me how you feel that, as I ask every guest the question,
Yeah.
race, wealth, and health intersect in the work that you do.
hmm So race, I feel like we are underserved. We, as a postal caller, we are definitely underserved in this space. When I was researching the demo on Wall Street, if I recall correctly, about 94 or 95% of the people on Wall Street are white. And then it gets down smaller once you break it up to Asian, Indian, and then black. I think black may have made up 1%, if that.
Mhm,
So when you think of the folks on Wall Street, who probably first comes to mind whenever a person thinks about a day trader, where is this information going? Like, what's the knowledge? How is it being shared? Is it being taught to your kids? Is it being taught to a school? Odds are probably not. So that 1%, they may just have it there for their home, but it
Mhm.
may not be reaching a bigger base, probably not being mentored to a group of people so that they can take this knowledge and grow with it elsewhere. And so that's the race part. Wealth is about making money. So that's there. And then health, I feel as though whenever you don't have money, whenever you're stressed out, whenever you don't know
Mhm.
how you'll feed your family, mental health, actual physical health, everything, it takes a turn for the worse.
Yeah. No, I agree wholeheartedly. And I mean, was any of that I know you mentioned, having
Mhm.
to experience, which most folks, I think, certainly in our generation, because we've had so many large economic
Yeah,
events to happen. I've experienced at least a job loss. Even talking about the health piece of that, like, how do you like manage that, right? How do you think about that, especially if it happened before you
it's tricky.
start
It has happened to me
to
before. It's tricky. It has happened twice. It's very tricky. When I first moved to Atlanta, I took a risk to come down on a contract. And it was a pretty good contract, but life is life. The firm that I was contracted to lost their client. So it's one, two, three. Because of that, they said, oh, well, we no longer have money. Hey, contractors, guess what? We got to cut you guys. So I said, oh, this is great. I'm buying a house right now. I have a problem. I had money coming in. It's going to be a contract to hire. I'm SOL.
Mhm,
What do I do? So I had to figure it out. It took some time. I was able to get a job. Everything was okay, but I had to try to work myself out of a hole.
mhm,
Doing that for a little bit and then ran to COVID. So I'm like, great. Another thing. This is amazing. Definitely not, because now I was a father.
mhm,
And that adds a whole new wrinkle to life and working and your sense of self-worth. And there's just a lot of things that just like goes into it.
mhm,
So now it's a thing that I never like really had an issue with prior, which was confidence. Now that's taking hits, but now I'm also afraid because I have a kid that I need to try and feed. I have a
mhm,
wife as well. Like there's a lot of things that's playing into my life now. And so I said, all right, I have this skill set or I have this passion. I need to like really double and triple down into it because I can't let a job now dictate how I live my life.
mhm. And I feel like you touched on some of the even the mental health portion, right?
Yeah,
Talking about being a man, that being, family and sort of like how do you yeah, how did you sort of, emotionally handle
it
that,
was
especially
tough.
once you had like a right.
So it was a lot of leaning on my friends. I thank them often for just like being a sounding board.
Mhm,
And speaking to older people as well, my neighbor, she's older, and her husband, he lost his job around the same time that I did. And it was a very interesting time span because a lot of people had lost their jobs. And then a lot of emphasis was being placed on, like, well, what do you feel like your value is? And she said something that was very interesting.
mhm,
Said that she really feels bad for men because men aren't told that their value is more than just what they can bring into a household on a financial aspect. Because I'm a very, very active father, I'm a loving husband, I'm doing all the good stuff, but I'm feeling like none of that really matters because I'm now out of work.
mhm,
So how do I make it from when I wake up to when I go to bed and then do it again? So a lot of just like trying to focus on something versus overthinking my life
mhm,
and just learning this craft day in, day out, pouring into it while looking for work and doing all that stuff, just trying to not focus on how I'm feeling, but doing something with my time.
mhm. No, that's big what she shared,
Yeah.
and I think it's important, right? Because even when we think about money in our communities and we think about the way that, even the family structure as it relates in our communities
Yeah.
and sort of the experience between Black men and Black women, like,
A
where
lot.
do you think that I mean, Do you think you got the message, right? That what was most important or what should have been, prioritized? Because to your point, you were doing all the other things, right? You were still a
Yeah.
devoted father, husband, doing the things, you were just in a temporary state of unemployment. Where do you think you got the message that that's what was important? Like, that's what makes you a man?
I would definitely say it was from my wife. And I say that because we try to communicate as much as possible. It's not easy for guys to communicate because it's just like not what we do. And that's a whole different issue. But we try to communicate with everything.
Mhm.
So she knew like what things I liked, what things I didn't like, and where I wanted to be in the future and what I wanted to focus on. And so I told her, I said, hey, I'm going to try and do this thing. I'm going to still look for work, obviously, but I really want to be able to find something that will allow me to do both. And she said, hey, I know that you are committed to it. I trust you. Like, I have no reason not to trust you. You've shown up and shown out for everything else, and you put in the work for years. So if you want to do that, sure. All right, let's go and focus on it. And so that was it. It's definitely that support that's there because that could have also gone the complete other way.
Right.
And I wouldn't resent her, but because like it'd be true. Like if she feels as though like, hey, we need this check, go out and do something else. Got to go out and do something else, and
Mhm.
then just try and figure out from there. But she definitely gave me the okay, like, hey, you know what? Your state doesn't define you, and I don't think any less of you. So that helped with those thoughts. I mean, it was still there, but it helped a lot.
Of course. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I was gonna say, I think that that's also important because I want to say I saw probably on Instagram or something recently where
Yeah.
it's talking about, it's the connection between wealth. So follow me. And when they were talking about like, one of the most important, and I'm probably gonna butcher what they were saying, but what I gathered from it
Mhm.
to summarize is like one of the most important decisions one can make is in their spouse when it comes to you
Yes.
thinking about like how your whole wealth situation, like a lot of things, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, even, mental, emotional, physical health as well, right? But I think your example with your wife, Jennifer, by the name,
Yes.
hi, Jennifer, shout out to her, is a prime example of that, right? Like of how that decision was really important and allowed you the flexibility and the mental freedom
Yes.
to pursue what it was that you wanted to pursue.
Yeah. And I mean, you are 100% correct. The person that you marry, that determines a lot. And I stand by that. And also, if you don't know how to communicate, it's not going to matter either.
Mm.
And so I think it's twofold. But yeah, your spouse makes or breaks you for sure.
And it sounds like you had a wonderful
Yes.
spouse, so very
Yes.
excited.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, tell me, what do
Mhm.
you think us as individuals, as well as community members, like, what should we be thinking about when it comes to educating around investing or just investing in general?
Learn the basics. I mean, you don't have to be like an everyday day trader. I guess it's
Mhm.
not that serious. And honestly, most day traders fail. So there's that. But you need a mentor. So there's more behind that number. But you should just learn the basics of investing because it's something that you can easily do. We, as a group of people, we spend the most out of any ethnic group. But then if you look at how much we make, we don't make that much either. So
Mhm.
this math is backwards. Like, how are we spending so much money, but we don't make the most?
Mhm.
So what can we be using this money for instead of just trying to consume stuff? We can put it back towards ourselves and build. It doesn't matter how old you are because it's never too late to invest. I
Mhm.
made I made a investment a few months ago for a stock. It was, I believe, $66 at a time. And that was kind of late. It's now over 140. And that was less than 2, maybe 3 months at the most.
Mhm.
Again, I was late to the game, but it went from 66 to from that to 140. So
Mhm.
again, it's never too late because there's always a stock that will move.
Mhm.
And I didn't buy it over and over again. It was a one-time purchase.
Right.
So I'm
Mm.
cool with that.
great advice. It's never too late. And yeah, like you said, try and learn the basics, at least be aware. There was another guest who was sharing around investing too. For those who don't feel as comfortable, funds are also opportunities for those who just want to start, and
Absolutely.
don't maybe feel comfortable like delving even into individual stocks yet. Like there are a lot of different options for people, which I think folks don't always know. Like you don't
Right.
have to be an investment whiz. You don't have to have,
Not one bit.
advisor who's been in the space for however many years per se. Like there's a lot of things that you could do. And of course there's so much information out there. You have to be
Yeah.
careful about what information you take too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just
But there's
keep
definitely
it
a lot
read
of
and do your homework.
yeah, do your homework. You can't, necessarily listen to all the Instagram reels about how to make money and how to make money quick.
Yeah. The moment that you hear is something that is quick money, it's probably a scam.
Yeah, 100%. So what's next for you in the organization? I think maybe you shared it, like this epiphany that you had at the Beyonce
Yeah.
concert.
So just focusing on growth, trying to market, and then also just I'm trying to stay sharp with my skill sets, making sure that I'm accountable and that I am for our
Awesome.
clients.
hmm And what's maybe one quote or one book that you'd recommend to our listeners?
There's a great book on life. Shoot, what is it again? The Trader. The Trader. Shoot, I'll come back to that. How about that?
We'll include it in the show notes.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, any actionable items that you want people to take away from this conversation?
I would just always say to stay sharp and just to know what's out there, because if you can do that, then you'll definitely be ahead of the game.
Yeah, sounds good. How can people stay in touch with you, follow you, learn more about the
Go to
work
my
that
website, www.grow-yourwallet.com,
you Okay, we
and
got it.
where you can find everything that I have.
Perfect. And we will link that as well in the show notes.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Omar. This is such a good conversation. I feel like there are so many other directions we could have gone in on some other topics.
There's a lot.
We'll have to
There's
have you
definitely
back. We had a very robust intro call, but that's also what happens when two friends haven't caught up in a long time.
right.
But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and congrats again on the work that you're doing. I think it's always an inspiration when we see our people who are really dedicated to not just getting ahead and moving beyond sort of the idea of individualism and really embracing community and wanting to share that out with
You're
people. So,
welcome. And I found the book.
yes,
Got it just in time. It's called Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas.
okay, perfect.
And it's free on YouTube.
Free on YouTube. I'll make that note.
It's long, but it's more than just trading. It really helps you about life as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Omar.
You're
I
welcome.
thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. It's been
You're
a
welcome.
pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
All right, take care.
All right.
Well, that's all for today, folks. Enjoyed the show? Be sure to like and rate the podcast. You can find the Race, Wealth, and Health podcast on multiple platforms, including Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you never miss an episode. I also want to hear from you, so don't forget to connect with me on social media. You can follow the podcast on Instagram and Facebook at Race, Wealth, Health. By joining the online community, you'll stay updated on the latest episodes, behind the scenes insights, and engaging discussions. Share your thoughts, comments, and questions there. I appreciate your support in sharing the podcast with your friends, family, and colleagues who may also find value in these conversations. Thank you again for joining me on this journey. Until next time, take care, stay informed, and keep up the good fight for equality.